The news said a murderer was on the run. My boyfriend sent me a message. I heard that guy is a serial killer who targets young women. You must be careful. Honey, I'm at the door. All right, I forgot the house code again. Can you buzz me in? I was just about to open the door when, on a whim, I looked through the peephole, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Standing outside the door was that murderer, but he didn't know that I had been waiting for him for a long time. When that wanted notice popped up on my phone, I casually forwarded it to Ethan. Ethan replied quickly, Honey, you must be careful. This guy is even a serial killer. He targets young women. I sent a speechless emoji sticker. You're not hoping I'll press like? I'm not that unlucky. By the way, when will you be home? A week ago, Ethan was sent on a business trip out of town by the company. He was supposed to come home today, but it's already past 10, and he still hasn't come back. I glanced out the window. Only a few streetlights were sparsely lit outside. This is a new residential complex, and Ethan and I had only moved in recently. It was getting late, and with so few residents around, there was hardly anyone out and about. While she was still staring in a daze, the phone buzzed, and Ethan sent another message. Honey, I'm at the door. What's our door code again? I forgot it. Can you open it for me? Ethan's back. Where did he come back from? I was just watching downstairs the whole time. I didn't see anyone come into the building at all. Bang, bang, bang. There was a sound of knocking at the door. Hurry up and open the door. Honey, I've been on planes all day. I'm exhausted. It's Ethan. He used to love appearing before me unexpectedly to surprise me. I didn't expect to mess up this badly. I even forgot my own house password. I hurried over, hand already on the doorknob, but for some reason I stopped again. I blame that news item from today. It left me a little unsettled. I leaned up to the peephole and looked out. A man wearing a baseball cap stood at the door. The light and shadow hid the upper half of his face, and he was wearing the same black down jacket as Ethan's. I let out a breath and cursed myself for being paranoid. But in the next instant, something else suddenly came to mind. What about Ethan's suitcase? When he went on that business trip, I had packed him a huge suitcase. Why can't I see it anywhere now? To be sure, I leaned forward and peered again. There really was nothing. Pressing against the door, I could feel my heart pounding wildly. By now, the man outside also seemed to be growing a little impatient. He twisted his neck instinctively. Soon, that bland face edged with malice was fully exposed under the hallway light. A chill shot up the back of my neck. He was not Ethan. I had just seen that face a moment ago. He was unmistakably the fugitive featured in the news. I was so frightened that I stumbled back a few steps. But very quickly, I realized my mistake. He must have heard already. The surroundings were deathly silent. I froze in place, utterly motionless. I don't know how long had passed when suddenly there came a thud, thud, thud on the door. It was the sound of knuckles, curled fingers, raping against the door panel. The man's voice was thick with slime and malice. You noticed me so quickly? What a bore. I was going to play a little game. This pervert. I tried hard to stay calm, but my voice betrayed me and began to tremble. I've already called the police. They'll be here any minute. If you know what's good for you, you should leave now. The call to the police hadn't even ended when the female officer's voice on the line turned serious. Don't panic. We've dispatched officers, and they'll be there within 20 minutes at most. You must stay inside the house and don't come out. 20 minutes? My guts were turning green with regret. If I'd known, I never would have picked such an out-of-the-way place when choosing a house. My voice trembling, I said, Please hurry, okay? That person still hasn't left. Yes, although it had gone quiet outside, I could tell. That murderer hadn't left at all. Perhaps to confirm my suspicion, a beeping sound soon came from the doorway. It was the sound of the buttons being pressed. Fear was like an invisible hand, clamping my throat with tightening waves. That person knew my house code. How could he possibly know my house code? He'd been using Ethan's WeChat to chat with me the whole time, and even the clothes he wore were Ethan's. Could it be Ethan? A cold dread kept rising in my chest, but I couldn't afford to think any further. The faint, almost inaudible drip at the door that I usually barely noticed now sounded to me like the death knell struck by the Grim Reaper. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen in a panic and ran without thinking. The blade threw off a cold glint under the light, but it brought me not the slightest comfort. Men and women are born unequal in strength. If he really came through that door, I was afraid I would be nothing more than fish and meat awaiting slaughter. Cold sweat broke out on my forehead bead by bead. I couldn't attend to anything else, wishing I could put every ounce of my attention on the door. Our fingerprint keypad at home was set to 10 digits, Ethan's habit. I used to think it was a hassle to enter, but now I thought it still wasn't long enough. 1 press, 2 presses, 3 taps, until password unlock failed. Hiding in the corner of the kitchen, I let out a long, relieved breath. Right, how could I have forgotten? I only changed the password today at the last minute. My mind went blank just now. I actually forgot something so important. It seemed the person outside hadn't expected this mishap either. The Dee Dee ringtone sounded again. Password unlock failed. Password unlock failed. The alarm kept blaring, and in a frenzy the man began kicking the door. You bitch, if I catch you I'll make sure you die a miserable death. This door was a specially installed, reinforced security door. When Ethan put it in, he even told me, Honey, I often work late and come home very late. Installing a good door will make me feel more at ease when you're home. Thinking of Ethan, my eyes couldn't help welling up. He's so good, he'll surely be fine. Time ticked by second, yet the sound of the kicking at the door still had not stopped. I felt as if even breathing had become harder. My body tensed in waves, and somehow the phone in my hand had been lit up. One message after another popped up across the screen. What's going on the 12th floor? It's so late, and there's still banging and thumping. Doesn't anyone else need to sleep? Exactly. It's driving me crazy. Getting neighbors like that is just terrible luck. I've seen that couple who live on the 12th floor. The guy looks so polite, and the girl is pretty. Who would have thought they'd be so rude? Property management. You need to do something about this. We bought these apartments because of your service. Where have you gone now? Property management? Right. How could I forget the property management? This is an upscale complex. Not only are there guards on duty at the entrance, but each building even has someone on duty. I quickly opened WeChat to check. The message had been sent 2 minutes earlier. When I scrolled down, sure enough, there was a reply from the property management. Dear residents, please rest assured. We have dispatched security to check it out. Someone's on their way. My eyes lit up. I was about to type to warn them that the person outside the door was dangerous and that they shouldn't take the elevator. But very soon a ding sounded in my ear. The elevator had arrived. The security guard got here so fast? No. If he opens the elevator doors now, wouldn't he run straight into that murderer? Thinking this, I immediately shouted, Don't open the elevator. There's a murderer outside. But I was still too slow. Soon, the security guard's angry voice rang out. Who is that? What are you doing here? There were loud, violent thuds coming from outside the door. They had started fighting. I met the security guard on the first floor once before. He looked like a strong man. You should be able to beat him, right? Hiding inside. I felt as if each day stretched into a year. I don't know how long passed before a muffled cry of pain reached my ears, followed by a string of footsteps fading into the distance. Then someone knocked on my door. Are you the resident of 1205? I'm a security guard downstairs. That man ran off, but he just stabbed me. Do you have a medicine box at home? Can you help me stop the bleeding first? Did he really run away? I hurried to the door. Sure enough, the man in the down jacket was gone. The corridor held only the security guard, bent over and weak, clutching his stomach. Great. I'm finally saved. My tense body finally relaxed completely. I collapsed against the door and felt every muscle throb with aching waves. Owner of 1205, are you still there? Can you open the door and help me? Perhaps because the pain was too much, the guard kept his head bowed, a few notes of anxiety creeping into his weak voice. Thinking that he'd been hurt trying to save me, I couldn't help but feel a surge of guilt. Just as I reached to turn the lock, I paused. Everything that had happened today was simply too strange. That killer first pretended to be Ethan to coax me. So not only was he vicious, he was exceedingly cunning. Could he really have been driven off so easily by the security guard? He wouldn't be hiding in the stairwell. waiting to slip in when I open the door, would he? Now that the guard is injured, if he suddenly lunges at me, I'll have no strength to defend myself. Just as I hesitated, the security guard outside banged on the door more angrily. Owner, I'm doing you a favor by rescuing you. You're not going to repay kindness with ingratitude and refuse to be saved, are you? Right? He was trying to save me, and yet I was standing here overthinking. Saving a life came first. I couldn't afford to think any longer. I put a little more force into the hand on the doorknob. A wisp of air slipped in through the gap of the open door. Just then, the phone, pressed somehow by me, lit up again. On the screen scrolled a message from the homeowners group chat. It seems quiet now. Didn't expect the management to be this efficient. Handled it so quickly. The upstairs residence. This is a high-end complex. If the management won't do anything, then all those expensive maintenance fees we've been paying are basically for nothing. Forget it. When I walked past the first floor last night, I didn't see anyone on duty. When I asked, they said today's security guard had taken leave and they didn't arrange a replacement. They just collect all that property fee money for show. My pupils suddenly contracted. A cold trickle ran up my spine. It had been only 3 minutes since someone in the group first reported the security guard appearing at my door. Although each building had its own duty security guard. But to ensure ample greenery, the distance between the two buildings in the complex wasn't small. It usually took an adult 5 or 6 minutes to walk across. They couldn't possibly make it here in such a short time. If the first floor guard had taken a day off, then who was the person outside the door now? A bad premonition rose up. My first instinct was to shut the door again, but it was already too late. Just as I was about to move, a hand squeezed in through the crack of the open door. Owner, what are you in such a hurry for? You haven't healed me yet. The security guard's sticky, lecherous voice pressed against the door. He really was lying to me. The guard dropped the act, braced himself against the door, and began to push hard to force his way in. I pressed against the door with almost all my strength, too afraid to let go, but that resistance was a joke against an adult man. Worse, there were footsteps running quickly toward us. Sure enough, the killer hadn't left. He had been lurking in the shadows, watching. My whole body trembled. The intense panic scrambled my thoughts until a streak of cold light cut my finger. I was so nervous a moment ago that I actually forgot there was still a knife in my hand. I lifted my hand and slashed hard. Blood instantly gushed from the wound where the security guard's skin had been split. Arg! He let out a miserable cry and instinctively drew his hand back. Almost at that instant, I jerked hard, shutting the door that had been pried open back together, and then locked it again. At the same time, those ghostly footsteps came to an almost complete stop at the doorstep. My heart was pounding so violently it felt like it might burst from my chest. I forced my voice to stay calm. Police will be here any minute. If you know what's good for you, leave right now. The person outside stood facing me in silence. I don't know how long we stayed like that before footsteps sounded again, and 2 figures, one after the other, walked off into the distance. Staring at the now empty corridor, the tight knot in my chest finally loosened completely. They really left. At that moment, I was overcome by waves of exhaustion. My legs could no longer hold me, and I crumpled to the floor. But just when I thought I had escaped heaven and earth, a series of clicking noises came from the balcony. I hurried to the window and leaned out to look down. In the pitch-black night, half of the man's body was already climbing onto my balcony. The apartment below mine was a 3-bedroom that had been bought by a young couple. Because I've been getting ready to renovate recently and was worried about disturbing the neighbors, they even came over to visit me. Maybe because they thought the house was empty and had nothing in it. Sometimes they would even forget to close the door. Now it's come back to haunt me. When he saw that I had discovered him, the man showed no surprise at all. Instead, he flashed an insolent grin. He was gripping the security bars with both hands, straining to pry them apart. The stainless steel rods immediately began to creak and clatter. My eyelids twitched violently. Oh no! Just a few days ago, I had noticed that 2 of the bars on the balcony security grill were already loose, and I hadn't had time to call someone to fix them. I can't let him go on. I grabbed the vase and a teacup nearby and hurled them over that way. Go to hell. "You murdering bastard." One of the teacups struck the man's forehead, blood splattering from the wound. He chuckled softly, as if he felt no pain at all. By now, 2 of the stainless steel bars had been bent into an arc by him. The man's legs were already through, and he was trying to force his whole body in. We couldn't wait any longer. I knew there was nowhere left for me to retreat. If I ran out the door now, I was afraid the security guard accomplice would be the only thing waiting for me. And if he got in, I feared. Thinking this, I didn't dare hesitate another second. I swung the knife and struck. The man was hanging from the windowsill now, able to free only one hand to push back. Although ruthless, he was ultimately at a disadvantage, and my arm quickly got slashed in several places. But these wounds did not make him retreat. Instead, they roused his ferocity. His face grew even more hideous. "You bitch, just wait. I'll make you die more miserably than those other women." I remember the news I'd seen online before. This killer specifically chose young women in their 20s as targets, and after killing them, he would also abuse their corpses. Even if I die, I won't die with such humiliation. Suddenly, courage surged through me. I summoned every ounce of strength and lunged forward again, swinging the knife. Today, it's either him dead or me gone. The blade landed squarely in his shoulder. The man uttered a miserable cry. But before I could feel any relief, I realized the knife was stuck deep in his flesh and couldn't be pulled free. At that moment, several cracking sounds came from outside. 2 of the window's security bars had been completely snapped off. Ignoring the knife, still jutting from his body, the man quickly climbed in and scrambled up onto the windowsill. His movements were impossibly fast. I was about to turn and run when sharp sting on my scalp. A huge handful of my hair was suddenly in his grip. I thought there was nowhere left for me to run. But at that moment, with a bang, the door was thrown open. Several uniformed policemen rushed in. The lead officer, seeing the man press a knife to my throat, barked angrily. "Let her go." The man, however, didn't seem scared at all. He chuckled twice, then suddenly tightened his grip. The blade cut the skin at my throat, warm liquid flowing out. But I had no time to react before a violent gunshot rang in my ear with a bang. The heavy body behind me went limp and collapsed forward, pinning me as it fell. I'm sitting in the police station, wrapped in a blanket. Thinking back to what just happened, my body still can't help trembling slightly. Seeing that I still seem not to have come to, Detective Lucas sighed. He poured a glass of water and set it by my hand. "Don't be afraid. You're safe now. Good thing you told us the door code on the phone, otherwise." He didn't finish the sentence. I suddenly remembered something and gripped his arm tightly, saying, "Officer Lucas, my boyfriend Ethan is still with them. You have to save him." That murderer was holding Ethan's phone, but he'd only ever killed women before. Maybe there was still a chance Ethan could be saved. As long as there's even the slightest hope, I refused to give up. Lucas paused. He glanced at the hand I was gripping and was about to speak when a voice cut him off. "Mia." I turned back in disbelief and met Ethan's eyes, full of anxiety. He rushed over and held me in his arms, squeezing as if trying to press me into his chest. "Honey, thank God you're okay. You nearly scared me to death." My head swam in a haze. I still couldn't believe he had just appeared before me like that. "Ethan, are you okay?" Ethan let go of me. His face was full of guilt. "I'm fine. I was drugged and knocked out in an airport restroom. When I woke up, my phone and wallet were gone, and my suitcase had been rifled through. I thought I'd been robbed. After I reported it to the police, I found out that the murderer had actually taken my phone and come after you." He cupped my cheeks with both hands and pressed a kiss hard into the center of my brow. "Honey, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I'm so glad you're okay. If you weren't, I could never forgive myself." I shook my head and threw myself into his arms. "I'm just glad you're all right. It wasn't his fault to begin with." Seeing him appear before me safe and sound, I could only think that heaven had taken pity on me. After my emotions had calmed down, Ethan stayed with me while I gave my statement. Strangely, Lucas only asked me a few perfunctory questions, but instead questioned Ethan in detail. His sharp gaze fixed unblinkingly on Ethan, as if trying to detect the slightest clue from him. I was puzzled and Ethan's expression looked somewhat sour as well. By the time everything was over, it was already 3 in the morning. Exhausted, we were about to step out the police station doors when Lucas called after me again. Ethan couldn't hold back anymore. He looked at Lucas with a gaze I hardly recognized. "Officer Lucas, my girlfriend has been through a frightening ordeal today and is already exhausted. Are you people ever going to finish?" Lucas didn't answer him. He only took out a piece of paper and handed it to me. "Mia, this is my number. If anything comes up, please contact me at any time." Although Ethan looked somewhat displeased, I still reached out and took it. Because at that moment, I suddenly realized, although that killer was shot dead on the spot, his accomplice, the security guard, was nowhere to be found. Thinking that someone might still be lurking in the shadows, I didn't dare return to my old house. Ethan was very understanding and helped me move. Everything seemed to have returned to a calm. Lucas kept contacting me, and he even asked me about Ethan on several occasions. I didn't know why he was so fixated on Ethan. After a few times, I got annoyed. "Officer Lucas, you should be focusing all your efforts on that escaped security guard, not here making baseless guesses about my boyfriend." Lucas was silent for a long time before speaking again. "Ms. Mia, when you were in danger, your boyfriend Ethan's phone and wallet just happened to be stolen, and all of that fell into the hands of a serial killer. Don't you think that's a bit too convenient? The cop in me tells me there are no such things as coincidences in this world." I let out a short laugh. "Officer Lucas, that's just your speculation." With that, I hung up the phone. Footsteps came from behind me. I turned around, Ethan. He came over and handed me a cup of prepared milk. "What's wrong? You look terrible. What happened?" I shook my head, not wanting to burden him with these things, and brushed it off with a casual reply. "Ethan is so good. How could he possibly be a bad person? Since that incident, he has been taking time off to stay home and keep me company. Every night, he makes me a cup of milk and watches me close my eyes and fall asleep before returning to the study to catch up on his piled-up work. With his soothing presence, the tension in my heart gradually eased. But maybe it was Lucas's call that still affected me. That night, for some reason, I suddenly woke up with a start from my sleep. I rubbed my dizzy head and was about to get up when I suddenly heard 2 people talking in the living room. I froze because one of those voices was one I would never, ever forget. It was the security guard. How did he end up in my living room, together with my boyfriend Ethan? I couldn't believe what was happening before my eyes. Ethan came from a well-off family and had a bright future. How could he be mixed up with such a fugitive? And they wanted to kill me. Could Lucas be telling the truth? Was there something wrong with Ethan? A ridiculous, panic-laced sensation swept over me. I couldn't afford to think of anything else. I pulled out my phone and dialed Lucas. Unfortunately, just as the call connected, the person outside seemed to sense something, and I heard footsteps coming toward me. I could only stuff my phone into the pocket of my skirt, then climb onto the bed, shut my eyes, and pretend nothing had happened. Soon the door was pushed open, footsteps drew nearer, then stopped at the bedside. I lay on the bed with my eyes closed, not daring to move, only feeling a pair of eyes quietly watching me. The invisible gaze was like a bladed knife, scraping across my skin inch by inch, making sweat break out along my spine. The hand under the blanket clenched involuntarily. I don't know how long had passed when, just as I thought I was about to get away, Ethan bent close to my ear and laughed softly. "Baby, what now? You still found out, didn't you?" They had tied me up and thrown me on the living room floor. Compared with the security guard's excited expression, Ethan's face was very cold. In my memory, he was gentle, considerate. Even if he upset me, he'd be the first to come apologize. I always thought the greatest luck of my life was having met him. I never imagined that the person beside my pillow would turn out to be a monster. I cried and demanded, "Why are you doing this to me?" The security guard laughed arrogantly. "Ha ha, Ethan, you play the part so well. This stupid woman really thought you were a good man." Ethan frowned, but still remained silent and did not refute. Cold tears traced down my cheeks, each one striking the floor. I remembered my first meeting with Ethan. The first time I saw Ethan was in a coffee shop. I was tripped by a child and spilled an entire cup of iced Americano all over his expensive white shirt. It was a cliché beginning, But as Ethan and I gradually drew closer, we found, to our surprise, that we were unexpectedly compatible. Later, when he confessed to me, I didn't hesitate for even a second. I said yes. When love was at its height, Ethan would gaze at me with a lover's devotion, telling me I was the woman he loved most in his life. I never could have imagined that this was the way he loved me. The security guard's greasy gaze roamed over me, his tongue clicking incessantly. Ethan, you really know how to pick them. This one's even better than the last. Shall we play that game again? This time I'll go first. I still can't forget the look in that girl's eyes before she died. So beautiful. I didn't know what game they planned to play, but there was a clearly malicious intent behind his words. What do you think you're doing? Doing what? The security guard flared his nostrils and grew visibly excited. He tapped my cheek with the back of his knife. What I'm going to do you'll find out soon enough. The cold metal against my skin made the hairs on my arms stand on end, and I instinctively struggled. But the security guard had already lunged forward. Soon, there was a tearing sound. He ripped my skirt apart. Get away from me, get away. I dodged his reaching hand, tears finally overflowing, and shouted at Ethan. Ethan, do you have any conscience left? We were together once. At least don't let him humiliate me like this. They were in cahoots from the start. I hadn't expected any sympathy. But to my utter disbelief, Ethan actually rushed forward. Under my horrified gaze, he plunged a knife into the security guard's back. I don't even know how everything that followed happened. By the time I realized, they were already grappling in a heap. Ethan's blows landed hard and fast, quickly leaving the security guard bruised and battered. The guard, unwilling to be outdone, grabbed a knife and thrust it straight for his vital spots. He had been strong, but because he started at a disadvantage, Ethan had already stabbed him once. In the end, she could only collapse to the ground from blood loss, reluctantly swallowing her last breath. I was so overjoyed I could have cried. Ethan, we won. I hadn't expected Ethan to choose to save me after all. Now Ethan was covered in blood. He looked at me with a strange expression. You're really naive. How could you think I killed him for you? I felt as if a bucket of ice water had been poured over me, and I froze instantly. What do you mean by that? Ethan smiled, but there was not a shred of warmth in it. This idiot and his brother got themselves into trouble and kept threatening me. I've wanted him gone for a long time. Isn't now the perfect time? He broke into my house, killed my girlfriend, and I fought him off, ultimately killing him in self-defense. How do you like that ending? So that was his intention all along, and absurdly, I had thought he had truly repented. He lurched to my side and, with a look of pity, stroked my cheek as if overflowing with affection. Wife, since you love me so much, use your death to do me one last favor. Don't worry, from now on I'll go light incense at your grave every year. Damn you, you deserve to die. My eyes were icy cold, as if I were looking at the most disgusting thing in the world. Call me what you want. It's all going to end anyway. Ethan shrugged, wearing an indifferent expression. He shoved the knife into the guard's hand, gripping the man's hand and drawing him closer to me. Baby, if it weren't for circumstances, I really wouldn't want to kill you because you really are so much like her. Unfortunately for him, this time he didn't get the chance to act. Ethan stared at his chest in disbelief. I suppose my eyes must have been very cold at that moment, which is why he looked so astonished. There wasn't much time left for him, because at this moment, the knife I held was driven straight into his heart. I twisted the knife hard in my hand. Ethan collapsed, his eyes full of resentment and confusion. Unfortunately for him, he would never get his answers. And in that sky full of blood, I smiled and closed my eyes. Before sinking into darkness, I heard the door slammed open. Lucas finally appeared. Lucas's perspective. The moment I got Mia's call, I knew things were very wrong. The worst thing I had envisioned had still come to pass. I tore through the streets toward her place, terrified that if I were even a second late, the tragedy would already have happened. Even though I heard the whole incident over the phone, I still hadn't imagined the scene would be so grim. The security guard we couldn't find had fallen in a pool of blood not far away, and Mia's boyfriend Ethan had been stabbed through the heart by her, dead with a single blow. Mia had clearly been badly shaken as well. After I took her to the hospital, she lay unconscious for a day and a night before waking. Now, pale-faced, she half leaned against the hospital bed, her jet-black hair falling on either side, looking fragile and beautiful enough to inspire pity. But I knew she was a girl with great inner strength. The process of taking the statement went smoothly, and after they knew everything that had happened, even her co-workers couldn't help but offer comfort. "Mia, you're really strong. Isn't that the truth?" She had clearly been plunged into such a dangerous situation, and yet in the end, she was the only one who emerged unscathed. Ethan and the security guard had an internal conflict that ended with one dead and one injured. When they finally tried to eliminate Mia, she unexpectedly managed to kill him in return. The chance of surviving something like that was even lower than winning the lottery. Mia curled the faintest of smiles, though her eyes were very tired. "Thank you. If there's nothing else, I'd like to rest." I understand very well. For her to hold on until now has already been incredibly hard. If an ordinary person had to endure something like this twice in a row, they'd probably have collapsed long ago. Especially this time. She had killed her boyfriend with her own hands. Back at the station, her colleagues were still clicking their tongues in wonder. "Officer, that girl was incredibly lucky. She escaped in succession from a serial killer and a devil of a boyfriend. Coincidentally, they both died. She's the only one left alive." I froze for a moment. Yes, it really was a coincidence. The good survived, the bad reaped what they sowed. There couldn't be a better ending than that. Maybe all of this was fate. But while I was still stunned, someone came in. "Officer, we found something new." When Mia was discharged, I appeared at the hospital again. The nurse beside me teased as she looked at me. I've been coming very often these past few days, and it was obvious she was misunderstanding something. I ignored her and simply told Mia that I wanted to talk with her. She accepted calmly and came with me to a cafe. "Officer Lucas, what's the matter?" Her expression remained calm, yet in that moment that calm made a chill creep into my chest. I wanted desperately to peer beyond her beautiful shell and see what her soul truly looked like. "Mia, do you know Lily?" I asked. Mia tilted her head and thought for a moment, as if recalling something. "Lily? I think I have a vague memory of her. She should have been my high school classmate. She's dead. We found her body. A few days ago, when we searched Ethan's house, we dug Lily's remains out of his garden. To be precise, they were body parts. The corpse had been dismembered into pieces, horribly mutilated. After the forensic exam, we were told something else that was heartbreaking. This poor girl had suffered inhuman torment before she died. Not only was she raped multiple times, but many of her bones were broken. Clear signs she had been brutally beaten while alive. Even as a homicide detective who'd seen countless murders, this case still made my blood run cold. "Oh, is that so? Her luck really was awful." Mia's tone was very light, so faint it was almost inaudible, as if this were someone who had nothing to do with her. "Aren't you sad?" I stared at her, afraid of missing a single expression. Mia lifted a faint smile. "Officer Lucas, I do feel sorry for what happened to her, but she was just a classmate I had some contact with years ago. What more do you expect from me?" But the information I found clearly told me they had once been very close. What's more, Lily was her only friend. I didn't want to beat around the bush anymore, and said directly, "Mia, the ones who killed her were Ethan and the security guard, and that murderer, and they have now all, directly or indirectly, died by your hand. Do you think I would believe all of this is a coincidence? The serial killer, because he kidnapped her, was shot dead by me. The security guard, due to a conflict with Ethan, was killed by Ethan in turn. And Ethan just so happened to die at her hands." I looked at her and said, word by word, "The autopsy shows there were traces of drugs in Ethan's stomach. That kind of drug can make him collapse and lose all strength within half an hour, with no ability to resist." "How do you explain that?" Mia raised an eyebrow. "Is that so? Maybe it was one of those guards who did it. They were already up to no good. Wouldn't infighting among them be expected?" Her expression was flawless, because she knew I couldn't produce any evidence. All the people who could prove any of this are already dead. What a coincidence. So perfect, it could have been a script carefully woven by someone. I closed my eyes. Mia, why did you do this? If you discover what they'd done, you could have called the police. The law would have given them their due punishment. Instead of like this, letting your own hands be stained with blood. Mia stared at me for a moment, then laughed out loud. Officer Lucas, you don't actually think I planned all this, do you? Investigations require evidence, and no one understands how the crime unfolded better than you police do, especially you. You heard the whole thing, didn't you? Do you have any proof? A chill rose from the depths of my heart, making me freeze in place. Yes, no one knew it better than I did. There was no evidence. Everything fit together perfectly. If this script was truly written by Mia, then she must be the best playwright. Those three villains would probably never know, even to their dying day, that they had been played by her. Even I had become her witness. Mia stood up. Officer Lucas, if there's nothing else, I'll be going now. Her white skirt looked fresh and enchanting in the sunlight, as if untouched by dust. I closed my eyes, knowing this was the end, but I couldn't help saying, Mia, be a good person from now on. Once someone crosses the line, they lose all restraint thereafter. This time she escaped by sheer luck. Would she be that fortunate next time? I truly don't want a day to come when I have to arrest her with my own hands. Officer Lucas, someone once told me the same thing. Unfortunately, good people rarely live long. Mia didn't look back. I sat there, watching her silhouette gradually vanish into the crowd. After that, I never saw her again. My father was a murderer. My mother said I would never turn out right when I grew up, so she brazenly gathered up all the money in the house and ran away. I don't blame her, because even I think of myself as a monster. Maybe I was born carrying the genes of my father's wrongdoing. So when I was 5 and the neighbor's boy smashed my head with a stone for the second time, I didn't resign myself the way my grandmother said I should. I used a little furry puppy to lure him into a trap I had long since set. He froze in there for a full day and night. The next day, he was found barely clinging to life. He almost burned down into a fool. It was the first time I had done something evil, and I felt proud that I had left no trace. But some things don't need any evidence at all. I don't know what he said when he came to, but his overbearing, unreasonable father still stormed into my house and slapped me hard. Only then did I understand that no matter how perfect my plans were, without enough strength behind them, I was nothing but fish to be butchered. From then on, I learned to disguise myself. Until I entered high school, I did very well in my studies. A top student with excellent character and a tragic background always draws a little pity. But this also drew other people's discontent. For example, Ryan, who was always second. Rumor had it his family was rich. His mother was especially strict with him, hoping he could claim the top spot in the grade. Unfortunately, the one sitting in that position was me. If no one can surpass me, then get rid of me. He was very smart. Although he hated me, he always pretended to care for me deeply. Soon this drew the displeasure of his admirers. Those brainless idiots started targeting me. They shoved my head into the sink in the bathroom, slapped my face, and warned me to stay away from Ryan. I cried as I agreed. But not long after, they were involved in a car accident together, Ryan included. His injuries were especially severe. Both his legs were amputated below the knees. When I went to the hospital with the homeroom teacher to see him, I had deliberately bought a bouquet and told him to take comfort in his grief. Ryan was already husk. He didn't notice the faint curl at the corner of my mouth as I left. I thought it was over, but unexpectedly this time, there was a slip-up. The new transfer student Lily actually blocked my way and said to me, Mia, I know it was you. Lily transferred in during the second semester of my sophomore year. She was pretty and lively and got along with almost everyone in the class. Everyone except me. I didn't like her, but Lily didn't seem to notice my dislike. She kept clinging to me. She often came to me with problems she couldn't solve, hands clasped, pouting at me. Please, I'm begging you, honor student, just help me out. She irritated me, but under everyone's gaze, I had to keep up the facade of the model student. And from then on, Lily clung to me. I don't know when she began to see everything. Seeing that innocent, harmless face of hers, my gaze turned ice cold in an instant. Lily, I don't know what you're talking about. Lily stared at me stubbornly. Mia, I won't tell anyone. I know you're a good person. All of this is their fault. A good person? I sneered inwardly. Good people don't live long. I refused to be one. I knew this wasn't over. I stayed on guard, waiting for the moment she would deliver a fatal blow to me so that I could strike back. But she treated me as if nothing had changed. After class, she tugged me to the restroom, and then pouted, begging me to help her with problems, as if nothing at all had happened. Until one evening study session, when I was cornered in an alley. A blonde thug slapped me hard. "You're the bitch who caused my sister's accident, aren't you?" My cheek was numb with pain like when I was 5, but instead I smiled. "I don't know what you're talking about." I wasn't angry at all. They had no evidence, just impotent rage, and one day I would settle every last score with them. But I never expected Lily to show up here. When those men were beating me, she shielded me with her body. Perhaps afraid of causing a death, the thug spat out a few harsh words and then ran off. Lily, covered in blood, crawled to my side, shook my body, and when I didn't respond, she cried. "Mia, please, you mustn't be hurt." She said it as she staggered and tried to lift me onto her back. But I knew she was clearly more badly injured than I was. I opened my eyes speechlessly. Seeing that I was all right, Lily flung herself onto me, crying and laughing. She seemed happier than I was. When she had cried enough, I finally asked the question that had been hiding in my heart all along. "Since you know what I've done, you must understand you shouldn't get close to a monster like me. Not even my own mother wanted me. Why is she being so good to me?" Lily lifted the corner of her mouth tiredly. "You call me stupid, but you're the stupid one. Who goes around saying they're a monster? You're clearly a good person. Good people deserve good things." This was the second time she called me a good person. Looking into her clear eyes, a complex feeling swept over my whole body. Maybe being a fool is contagious. I actually wanted to try it, just to know what it felt like to be a good person. I said, dazed, "But I don't know how to be a good person." No one had ever taught me. From the moment I was born, everyone told me I was destined to be an evil person. This is my original sin. Now I even want to be a good person, and even I find it ironic. Perhaps seeing through the thoughts in my heart, Lily looked at me solemnly. "Don't be afraid. I'll help you from now on. You deserve a bright future. Don't get your hands dirty for these people." Maybe because I'd been in the dark for so long, when a shaft of light finally slid in, I let myself indulge in a delusion, thinking I could grasp it. I wanted to see that different future too, but I should have known better. Heaven wouldn't be so kind to me. Later, that beam of light was stolen. The person who wanted to teach me to be a good person was dead. She died in a corner no one knew about. Even her body had been cut into pieces. And following her footsteps, I came to City A. When the coffee spilled onto that man's expensive shirt, I lifted the carefully disguised face I had prepared. "I'm sorry, it's all my fault. Could I add you on WeChat? I'll pay you back for everything." He paused for a moment, then accepted my request. His WeChat name was Ethan.